Hi there. Before you jump into this episode, we want to make sure our listeners know about the How Do You Drew Patreon page, where we release exclusive content for our members.
We've shared unedited video versions of podcast episodes, rare Drew Barrymore photos from our digital archives, movie commentaries, and so much more.
We're currently working through a deep dive of each chapter of Little Girl Lost, which, if you don't know, is Drew's out-of-print autobiography released when she was only a teenager. And it's been really good stuff, you guys.
There's already plenty of content to dig into and lots more to come. So join now for as little as $1 a month and support us at How Do You Drew.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew to join today. Thank you.
Enjoy the episode. Should I click this theme thing?
Let's do this theme thing. Hello, and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley. Hello.
Hello. And weirdly, I had a little frog in my throat at the beginning this time. Like, what?
I was being very self-conscious about it. I was like,
and I liked your little hey, hey. I think the hey, hey.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
Hi.
All right, everybody. Here we are. Here we are at the top of another episode to laugh at each other and make you guys laugh, hopefully. And talk about our girl.
That's right.
All right, so I guess we get to drop right in and talk about the things that Drew has proclaimed her love for recently.
I love love.
Okay, we actually have a couple because there's been like snippets of new footage on the Drew Barrymore show this week. It's so weird. I have to like comb through. Anyway, all right. So Drew loves a griddle, Dave Chappelle,
okay,
a couch talk.
That's like so her.
I know. Pigs in a blanket.
Okay.
And Drew loves love stories that are more of the platonic nature. Which I feel like she's mentioned quite a few times.
That's really cute. Like, yeah. I just think of her like thinking of like her girlfriends as like a love
boys on the side. Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Totally. Totally. All right. So after that little short segment there, should we get into the Drewism of the week?
You know, those cool little isms that we do.
Yeah, this is a great one. I really like this one. This is Drew. She's talking with Nate Burleson on the red carpet. We'll explain the event later on, but this is just about her being perceived as too much.
Okay.
I heard something recently that a person is never too much. The container is just too small for them. And you have found the right containers that can fit all of you, all of Drew.
I also might be one of those funny things that you got as a kid when you took the lid off the can. Yeah, I might be that big coil that pops out of the can.
That is really cute.
It's such a good analogy.
That's so great. And she so is the big coil that pops out of the can. Even like those kind of things, even though those things like scare me. Like I hate like.
Does Drew scare you?
Yeah, she scares me so much. She's like a Jack in the Box.
You never know. She's going to pop out at you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop doing weird clown sounds and
love doing weird. You used to do that to me, like weird circus music.
I won't do it today.
All right.
Let's get into our mailbox.
You've got mail.
So I'm actually surprised we never read this. I'm pretty sure we didn't. This is really special because this comes from Alfredo, and he actually works for Chris Miller, and he has for a while. So he used to be part of the Drew Barrymore show when Chris was over there, and he was at Drew's 50th birthday episode. He was sitting in the VIP seats, and we didn't really get a chance. We didn't get a chance at all to like make eye contact or say hi or anything, even though we know each other. And quite a bit later, he sent us a really sweet message.
Okay, so here's what Alfredo said. He said, "It was so great to see you two. I think what you two are doing is incredibly important. DB does not realize what an icon she is, and having someone to archive things is super important."
Isn't that nice?
I mean, yeah, this is exactly what we say. Like she's a living legend, you know, and
truly.
And people who collect the way that we think about collecting on her might collect on someone like Marilyn Monroe or, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Alfredo.
I know. Thanks. It's very validating, like someone that actually knows her to be like, someone needs to be doing this and you guys are doing it. And we're like, yeah, we are.
It's like,
that's it.
Thanks for acknowledging exactly what we're doing is valuable. We know it is. All right. Let's get into this week in Drew history and go back in time, not too far. I guess I always say that, and then it's like, that's 20 years ago. All right. Let's go back in time.
All right. How about 11 years? Very recent.
That is very recent.
So let's go back to May 21st, 2014. And this is for the blended premiere in Los Angeles at the Chinese Theater. And I thought this would be fun to talk about because you were there.
I was there.
Before we get into that. So Drew was just less than a month postpartum from having Frankie, which is crazy. Yep. And she attended with her then husband, Will. And I'm not really a fan of the look on the red carpet here. This dress she's wearing, not my cup of tea. That probably doesn't surprise you at all, right?
I actually really like it.
I knew it.
I mean, it's just like white and lacy. And I mean, maybe in some way it's like not, I don't know. What don't you like about it, you think?
It almost is like the way that her wedding dress feels, like just frumpy.
Covering
and like,
her up.
Yeah, which I understand. Like, but she did it in a totally different way at the blended premiere in, was it Berlin? I think it was. And she had on like a really cool black flowy, like I actually loved that look. And, you know, so she definitely knew how to like cover up her postpartum body. And this one to me is just a miss. I don't know. I just, meh. No,
I like it. All right. So I'll just get into a little bit about how I ended up going to this event.
And why didn't I go?
I don't remember why you didn't go, but
it's just been too hard for me to get away for some reason.
Yeah. And I think that you were trying to go because I think one of the tickets like said you got like a ticket that said your name on it, didn't you? Like,
no, you guys gave me one of the tickets as like a souvenir.
Okay. So we have Chris Miller to thank for giving us access to this. It was like,
as usual.
Of course, Jolena and I went together and we did not walk the red carpet. Obviously, that's not what you do when you're like a guest that's not famous. But we like walked up to a table. They had our names on a list. It felt very cool to be like, you know, we had come close and like with 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
You know, like we got to go to this kind of annex building to watch it, even though we were just like fans in the stands or whatever. Anyway, so I don't remember like a ton about it, but one of the coolest things was that Chris also got us into an after party that was at the Roosevelt Hotel across the street and brought us to Drew to talk to her.
Oh, I don't think I realized that he like escorted you over to her.
Yeah.
Oh, of course he did.
Or like it was something kind of like we saw him first and then, you know, he's like, come on. I do remember that like being very conscious of the fact that she'd just given birth and like her energy was still lovely, but she definitely seemed more tired. Like I remember,
I'm sure.
I mean, of course I was also meeting her after like a long day. At the end of a long day probably, but I was like, I think I said congratulations, you know, it was very brief. The exchange was very brief, but I remember her seeming just a little more tired than usual.
Can't blame her.
And I'll just say like a couple more things about this. So yeah, the after party it wasn't like a crazy party or anything, but there was a moment when Jolena and I were standing very close by to Adam Sandler. And he did not acknowledge my top of the shoulder. And so I always like associate that moment with like,
oh no,
what could I have done differently? You know, I don't know.
Is it possible he didn't feel it?
No, because I think after that I was like, "Hi, Adam." I don't know. It was a very clear snub.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I feel like Adam Sandler is someone who gives his energy to the people he really cares about giving his energy to, and then doesn't to other people. I don't know. I've tried not to take it personal this time, but yeah, thank you for selecting this little part of my history where it overlaps with Drew's history.
I know I was definitely jealous, but for some reason just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I cannot remember. It must have been something like important enough that you couldn't have.
I hope so.
I mean, you'd had Mila, like Mila was 5, right? So, or not even 5 yet.
Yeah, not even 5, yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows?
All right. Let's move on to what's new with Drew.
Here we go with the news, everybody.
Okay, I wish we knew a little bit more about this, but she did host an Emmy for-year consideration Q&A event for Stephen Colbert. So she went to his set, which, by the way, I can't believe I never figured this out before. Did you realize that's the same studio that Letterman used to be in?
No.
Yeah. So, like, that's kind of cool.
That is cool. That's really cool.
I know. It's actually like a theater.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it the Ed Sullivan Theater? I think that's what it is.
That sounds familiar. Like they said that at the beginning of the Tonight Show or
something.
Yeah.
Or Late Show. Yeah.
Sorry, Late Show. Yeah.
Yeah, but something about like when I was looking for pictures from this event and that was the location, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of neat. She's like so back funny. On her old stomping grounds or flashing grounds.
Yeah. But no, I've never made that connection. But yeah, I'd love to know more about this. I love their rapport, Drew and Stephen Colbert. So that's cool.
There was a lot of cute pictures that I found on social media because I'm sure it was like an industry only kind of thing, but plenty of people who went shared photos of going.
Oh, cool.
So it looks like they were having a great time.
That's cool. And Drew's wearing one of her like solid color suits that she loves to wear.
Of course.
It's like, what would you call that color?
Plum? No, it's not quite purpley enough. Maroon?
Yeah, maybe maroon or burgundy.
Burgundy, yeah,
brown?
Burgundy.
Anyway,
yeah, there it is.
I love talking about visual stuff on an audio podcast, y'all.
You're so good at it.
All right, what else is new?
Okay, she also attended CBS Fest in LA, which I think is kind of just like a press thing for the new fall season announcements.
Okay.
And it seems like she was there more on behalf of Hollywood Squares than her show. But yeah, there's lots of cute pictures around the red carpet, again, wearing a full one colored suit.
Yep.
Stocking. Lots of cute things with the aforementioned Nate Burleson. They definitely have great chemistry together too.
Absolutely. I love their rapport too. Yes. They have a lot of fun.
Every time on Hollywood Squares. I love you,
Nate. Yeah.
Yep. One cute thing was Entertainment Tonight asked her like who she would love to have on Hollywood Squares.
Okay.
And at first she was playing it a little safe and naming like the former middle squares who have passed away, like Paul Lynde and Joan Rivers.
Okay.
But then she said she'd love to have Whoopi on. And she said she would get the hell out of that center square and step aside for Whoopi.
That would be fun to see her.
Yeah,
with
that
Whoopi
would be
too.
Pure Whoopi.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
All right. So there were some more Hollywood Squares episodes that were left over, I guess, that aired. So strange. I think I've only watched 2 of these 4.
Yeah, I think they dropped in pairs, like a week apart. So these episodes 17 through 20. So I like saw something where somebody was saying it was like, oh, on tonight's episode. And I was like, well, what? And they're up there on Paramount to watch now, which is so cool.
Yeah, so fun. So we got a bunch more fun outfits because she had such a great, they had so much fun.
Yeah, they had a lot of variety with the hair, makeup. I'm assuming
it was Lee, right?
Yeah, Lee did that clothes. Deborah did the makeup.
That's right.
And did Mr. Daniel do the hair? I think so.
I feel like you have to have.
Yeah.
So anyway, looking adorable. And as we have for previous episodes, we're going to go through the bonus round facts and see if we can identify whether they're true or false.
Okay. The first one. This one I was like, okay, they've been doing so good with making these believable, but this one went off the rails. Drew has a chia pet modeled after her.
False.
her face when they were reading that one. She's like, why would anyone believe this?
All right. What else?
All right. Drew knows how to ride a unicycle.
I'm guessing that's a no.
No. Has a fear of goat cheese.
Well, she hates it, right?
Yeah, I know. A fear was kind of a stretch, but
did they say it was true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally has a collection of globes.
That's true.
Yep.
And I think that comes up in this topic because there's a point when she's talking about gift giving and themes.
You know what's so funny? I like 3 times over thought that they mentioned globes in that. They do not. It just feels like they would.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Hey, Drewbies. We are here to tell you about our website hosts, Positive Medium, and they sponsor the podcast. We've been clients of theirs for over 10 years, and we use them for all our website needs on thedrewsium.com.
Their services include customized web design, professional coding, search engine optimization and marketing, plus hosting, which has been huge for us for many years.
Plus, their incredible customer service has been one of our favorite features. They've literally saved our site quite a few times, and they always help with minor troubleshooting in a matter of minutes. So whether that's coding issues or back-end questions, etc., we reach out, we get help immediately, which is just invaluable.
Lucky you. To our listeners, Positive Medium is offering 25% off any managed WordPress hosting plan using our promo code DREW. That's DREW. Visit our friends over at positivemedium.com. Thank you. All right, so here we are at this weekly topic, and we're going to finish up our Movieline series, right?
Yeah, so this is our last one. I should have written that in the notes somewhere, but it looks like we both knew. This is number 6, I think. And it's funny, like we talked when I first reread the article and I was like, God, it's really short. I like feel like it's a little anticlimactic to end on this, but you know, we gotta finish it. And then I like found this whole separate section that goes with this, which I'll explain in a minute. So it actually ended up being a little more full than I thought on first glance.
Which I love. Because I think we were kind of like, is it going to be as good as the others?
Yeah. And, you know, you can't really top the first 3. Stephen Rebello just killed it.
That's true.
There's still like cool little bits of information that you can pull out of all of them.
Absolutely. So you have a memory that I do not about us finding this on the stands. What do you remember?
Yeah, we must have told this in some other episode. I don't know why, but we were at Book Soup, which is one of Drew's favorite bookstores on Sunset.
Yeah, so we always loved going to Book Soup and like perusing the magazines and the books. They had like an amazing photography section. Anyway,
well, yeah, the magazine stand. So we would go and just flip through magazines. Like that's what we used to do back in the day. God, we used to spend so much time doing that. Isn't that wild to imagine? Yeah. I never do that anymore.
I never do it either. And like, I've been getting these magazines in the mail, these Us Weeklies in place of Drew, and like flipping through them so fast, but like I still have the skill to flip fast.
Yes.
I always do backwards to front. I don't know why. I've always flipped through magazines from the back. I think it's easier.
You're Japanese.
Oh.
Okay. So yes, we were at Book Soup. We were going through magazines and we literally found this on the stands with no previous knowledge that it was coming out, which didn't happen a lot. Somebody would always break the news on the grapevine like ahead of time. So this was like, we were the first to find it. And it was so exciting.
So cool. I wish I like had an exact memory of it, but
yeah.
I mean, this is such a great cover. So how cool for us to have come across that. Been like,
so exciting.
All right. So before we get into the article or the pictures, we'll talk a little bit about the credits. So the article was written by Lawrence Grobel. He writes about this interview and his process in his book called The Art of the Interview, which we'll get into more later. But that's what you were talking about that kind of added a little bit to our conversation. The photos were done by Craig DeCristo. Styling by Rita Rago. I recognize that name, I feel like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but maybe not. And then hair by Chris McMillan.
So yeah, he works a ton with Jennifer Aniston, among many other people, but long time with Jennifer Aniston.
Mm-hmm.
Totally notable. He's a legend because he's the man behind the Rachel haircut. Like he did that.
That's a big deal. That's like one of those like weirdly people still talk about the Rachel. I feel like
I just heard someone talking about it like on a podcast like yesterday.
And I don't think it's that great of a haircut. I'm sorry, Chris McMillan.
It's very much like of its time.
It's pretty plain Jane though.
Yeah.
Like anyway, or plain Rachel. Anyway, the makeup was done by Joanne Gare, who worked with Drew several times in the mid 1990s, and she is the one who did Guess, which that's really cool.
I know. I love that, like, because the last one I had noted was like 95 or something. So it's so cool that then all this time later they got to work together again. I should have messaged her. She actually follows us on Instagram.
I also realized you just did like a post recently of like Drew getting her makeup done in the Guess photo shoot.
Yeah, I don't know if she did that second one. I know she did the Salton Sea for sure. I don't know if she did the second batch in Miami.
Did that inspire that, or did you just like put that together totally separately?
Nope, totally separate.
I love it. I love these little cosmic coincidences that just happen.
Me too.
All right, so what can we say about the photos? I mean, they're really great, but you all who are listening, you should see them.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that, again, I will say I really appreciate that Movieline always did their own unique shoot specifically to them. They didn't recycle pictures from other sources. So I always appreciate that. This is kind of an interesting like setup.
Because it's like a fake backdrop. So every picture is in like front of a faux backdrop. Or maybe they're different backgrounds. I can't see it.
It's almost like she's in the entryway to a restaurant. You know what I mean? It's just like murals and like potted flowers.
But I think that she looks amazing in every one of these pictures. And some of the outtakes are quite cool. And it looks like we have quite a few outtakes in our archive.
Yeah, luckily there are quite a bit. I'm not crazy about her hair on the cover because I just don't really like that 2002 side swoop that she has like in Full Throttle. It's just not my favorite.
Super side swoop. Like
super
starts at her part starts at her ear. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the ones in the black and white striped top and the ones in the black jacket. Yeah, they're all just really pretty. And I guess that was her own ring in the black jacket ones, which I love.
What did she call her ring in that Scream interview?
Bulbous.
I don't know why I always like that word, bulbous.
Me too.
But this one is a bulbous ring too.
It's definitely a bulbous ring.
Yeah, I actually really dig the weird backdrop style. Anyway, these are really, really lovely. There's not anything, because they're like backdrops, there's no like scene. It's like all about like what she's wearing, kind of. Like it almost, I mean, I don't know. I was going to say I can't imagine them with like a plain backdrop. So I kind of dig that they did it. But
yeah, so we'll definitely share not only the magazine contents, what they actually printed in the magazine, but a bunch of outtakes as well on our website, howdoyoudrew.com, on the episode page.
So sweet.
I know, it was fun we didn't have a kind comment this week so we could hear so sweet.
All right. So are we ready to jump into the article, or before we get into the article, talk a little bit about what you found?
So, okay, I literally like read the article, did all my notes, summarizing it. And then I was like, I should probably Google the author, because this is the only time he's done one of these. Like we had repeat guys before, this guy's new. And I find that he not only has a book called The Art of the Interview, but that he talks a lot about this interview in it. And I was able to procure myself a copy to look at.
I love it.
Yeah, so he goes into great detail about all of the articles about her that he read for his research. Like he literally lists what they were and like what pieces of information he took from them. It's actually a little too much if you ask my opinion. Like to me, it was interesting because I like knew them all.
Right.
But to the average person, it'd be like, oh my God, why are you listing every single other article you read and what you got from them?
That's such like due diligence.
Yeah, which of course I appreciate. Like, you know, I love accuracy and I love research. So it shows in his questions. I think there are quite a few questions where I was like, oh, it's kind of cool that he knew that. Yeah. He also writes that he didn't want to spend too much time rehashing her past because like everybody does that. So at first I kind of judged him for the way he brings it up at the very beginning. But now that I know that, like it colored my view a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I get it. He's just trying to get it out of the way because it's sort of required.
I feel like some of the best articles still do it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just a little bit of like, she was a bad girl. Now she's coming back and let's talk to Drew.
Also in the book, he includes all 158 questions that he had prepared, which that's so many. And also he puts parts of the interview in his book, and it includes a lot that didn't make it to print. So it really like fleshed it out better for me, especially because, I mean, I'll just say it now. At first I thought like, she doesn't seem to like him. Like her answers are coming across really like abrupt and short.
And you told me that too. You're like, there's not like a warmth, like what's going on?
Yeah. But now that I like saw the fuller answers, I'm like, oh, this sounds way more like Drew. Like she's, you know, babbling on and on about things like she usually does. So I feel like the editors of Movieline kind of messed up with this. Like all the other ones are so long and like I mean, this was kind of towards the end of their run, I think. So who knows?
So maybe they were like, an article can't be more than blah, blah number of pages, or people don't read articles over a certain length, or
maybe, but it's definitely like, oh, if they'd included everything, and he doesn't even include everything in his book. Like I can tell there's probably more that I would have really loved to read about. But so we're going to do kind of a weird, unique thing we've never been able to do before, which is talk about what the article that was printed, but also fill in these gaps that I got from his book.
Yeah, I feel like this is sort of, it's not the same, but akin to like you having the Mad Love script and being like, this is something that was there. Like,
yeah, I thought the same thing.
All right. So there's this little snippet from the book that you pulled, and I'll go ahead and read this. He says, the actual interview with Barrymore took 5 hours, but for a while I wasn't even sure, after all my preparation, that it was going to happen. It kept getting postponed to her movie schedule. At first it was going to be on a weekend, then during the week, then she had a day off when she wasn't going to be traveling. When a date was finally set, her publicist called to say that Drew wanted to see my resume. And I love this little part here because it's just so like, I don't know, it's cool that that kind of goes on to say that she approved of his credentials, and he says that she's a good interview and very quotable. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think he even says like his editors were very happy with like the quotes he was able to get out of her. And then I'm like, and then they chopped them all up. What the hell?
Yeah.
And this is sort of funny. His book also has a section with other journalists, and it includes Michael Fleming, who did our last 2 Movieline interviews.
That's cool.
I know. And I think the question was like, who have you interviewed that's been surprising or something like that? But Michael picked Drew, and he said that she is trippy, but just adorable. And so in the moment.
That's great.
True.
I think she would love to be called Trippy.
Totally.
That's cool.
Just the last thing I was going to say is that, like I said, at first I didn't think she really liked him, but when you read like the transcript of what he included, right off the bat, she compliments him because he like asks her something about how his friend heard her on the radio talking about the Beatles. And she's like, oh, I knew you were going to be different. Like I knew you were going to have like different questions than normal. So she likes him more than it seems.
Yeah, it's just chopped up.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're kind of diving into the article, and we'll have these pieces that were taken out kind of plopped in here. So if you've ever read this article, there's going to be some new stuff. All right. So the title of the article is The Latest Drew Stories, which that's kind of unique, but what?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, is that a pun?
Okay. And then we've got the summary introduction, which I think this is kind of brings us to today. So it says, she's only 28, but Drew Barrymore has already lived through several phases, her latest being mega producer. She has Charlie's Angels Full Throttle and Duplex coming up next. Here she discusses her lucky career streak and brings us up to date on all things Drew. The new guy in her life, the friendship she's trying to start with ex-Tom Green, the fondness she feels for George Clooney, the advice she'd give Winona Ryder, and the way she currently feels about her breasts.
I know. I'm like, do we have to have that? I guess we do.
Because he asks about them.
Yeah. And I could not get the context of that from his questions. It feels very out of left field. Anyway, so the article starts by listing, again, like the same old things from Drew's past. And he says, like, these things shouldn't make her a good role model. And I was like, oh, but then I was like, okay, he's trying to get this. We got to get this out of the way. So then he points out that that's exactly why she is a good role model. And he writes, Barrymore has not only survived her personal hurdles, she has become a big success story, managing to thrive as both an actress and a producer. And then he goes on to list all of Drew's and Flower Film's recent successes and all the projects in the works. This is very like, I feel like it's a little more producer focused than some other articles about her.
Yeah, like they do talk a lot about stuff she's working on for sure. Yeah. And that's coming up, I guess. So Lawrence met Drew in her trailer for Full Throttle on the Sony lot in Culver City in mid-December 2002. And filming was supposed to be done earlier in the month. And she was kind of talking about how she was like working on the costs of running over. Very producer mode.
Totally.
Right? And then this is where they kind of mentioned some of the stuff that was being worked on. So it says she's also working on the script for a remake of Barbarella.
R.I.P.
Dead. Is tinkering with a film version of the novel A Confederacy of Dunces.
Dead.
Dead. And is scheduling meetings with Adam Sandler over 50 First Kisses, which, as you know, got renamed to 50 First Dates.
50 First Dates.
50 First.
Whole different movie.
That's in the section of the store where you don't let the kids in. It's got the red curtain. I'm so sorry. 51st Days.
I do want to quickly jump in about A Confederacy of Dunces because we maybe talked about it once because it was really briefly mentioned in another magazine in 2005, but that movie did come really close to being made. There was a director, there was a cast, like Will Ferrell was the one attached to it at the time that Drew was attached to it. I guess it'd been trying to be made for like decades. Like I read like John Belushi, John Candy, and Chris Farley were all involved. So people are like, oh, there's a curse to this movie because they all died young. But yeah, the director even like put out sort of a statement in 2004, 2005, like about how disappointed he was that it was put on hold. They had the whole cast. So it sounds like it was like property rights and junk like that, you know.
That sucks.
The business.
The biz.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that was one of those films that for years was just like it mentioned as Drew being working on it. But I feel like that projects dying before they even have a chance to be filmed is so common.
I know. It's such a strange thing. Like it's hard to make a movie.
Yep. No kidding. I mean, but tons of people are writing scripts all the time. Like think about the amount of shit. Well, think about the amount of shit and the amount of good shit that there is out there.
Shit and good shit.
Yeah. So now we get into the Q&A section. So I think have almost all of these or all of them been like Q&A format?
This one and the previous two. Stephen Rebello didn't do it that way, but Michael Fleming did.
Okay. All right. So here we are with another Q&A and we've summarized it. So the first question, what's with all the huge dictionaries and boxes around her trailer? And Drew says, they're Christmas presents. I do a theme every year. One year it was record players. This year it's dictionaries. They're all vintage. I love old things.
So cute. Imagine getting a dictionary from Drew. You could rub it on your body and say,
I love paper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Paper. Yeah.
Oh.
That's Drew with her dictionaries. And yes.
It's funny, like, so I thought the globes could totally have been a thing. Then I was also thinking typewriters because I know she like has collected old typewriters before. So I really liked this. This is like one of those kind of Drew details that I'm like, I love knowing this.
Yeah, I love it too. And I would love to know like what the themes were every year. Like,
yes, totally.
That's so cool.
Then he asks if she likes old bands like the Beatles. And she said, every month I pick a different Beatles song. Right now I'm back on It's Only Love. And I looked that one up. I wasn't familiar with it, but it has a mention of butterflies in the lyrics. So I thought that was cute.
It's a really pretty song.
And then this is kind of cool. So she says that there's this weird book called The Guide to the Advanced Soul that someone had given to her years before. And when you open it, it shows like whatever your problem is, there's a passage that pertains to it, like a fortune cookie, only more insightful. So she says, to me, putting on a Beatles song is like that. Whatever dilemma you're going through, if you put on a Beatles song, they will answer it. I also love that you can make love to their songs. So some of that was from his book and some of that is from Movieline where they like chop stuff out. She also mentions the songs Yes It Is and the anthology version of Mother Nature's Son as two other Beatles songs that she was really into at that time.
Oh, that's really sweet. I'm going to have to share this with my partner, a big Beatles fan. And like,
oh, cool. Let's see if he approves.
Then he asks her who she thinks compares to Beatles for her today. And she says she loves Beck and how Beck explores genres like the Beatles. She goes into a lot of detail in the unprinted version, I guess. And she mentions that she just saw him in concert and loves when you can't pigeonhole someone. That's cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
That is so true about Beck. Like
totally.
His albums like sound like a different like person,
different artist.
Yeah.
He points out that she also loves to explore different genres in her work. And he mentions Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and Duplex.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the unprinted version, she goes really deep into talking about specific movies and filmmakers.
Cool.
She talks for a long time about Annie Hall, shocker.
Okay.
And she said, quote, "It's movies like that that justify why I spend my life in a box trying to go out there and make them." Life in a box. It's like Poison Ivy.
But that's cool. I'd love to see like the details of that. Like,
yeah,
it's cool. Then she's simply asked if she thinks Ben Stiller is funny, and she says very. And then follow-up is asked, is he as amazing as Adam Sandler? And Drew says that she and Adam got really close when they were touring for The Wedding Singer, and that he just had come to visit her, maybe on the set of Full Throttle.
I'm sure, because wasn't he Sony? I'm sure he's right there on the lot. Yeah.
You're right. I think he is.
Yeah.
And she said, my relationship with him, meaning Adam, is unique and profound. Ben and I are just getting to know each other. So it's like she can't compare, those relationships.
I was actually sort of surprised at her answer for some reason. Like, I thought she would gush about Ben, but she's very much like, I don't know him like that yet. What did we find out she calls him? Benjamin Rabbit?
Oh, yeah. When he was on her show, I was just trying to think. I was like, wait, I feel like we had a really cute interaction on her show.
Yeah, very, very.
That was one of the things, like, she kept, like, doing little ears, right?
Okay, so then he asks if Duplex was a stretch for her. And she says, only in the way that she didn't relate to her uptight, yuppie-ish conservative character, which I thought was funny. And then she said, quote, I wanted sex and rock and roll in my life so desperately. I couldn't take her turtlenecks anymore. I wanted to kill her. Funnily enough, I couldn't find any pictures of her wearing a turtleneck in that movie, but you get the idea. She's very conservatively dressed. And then Drew also calls her character very tickety-boo, which is a word that Nancy Javonen's mom would use to mean organized and logical. And she actually uses that word in the movie, like to her boss. And he's like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah. So it's kind of cute. It's like a little inside
really
joke.
Funny. All right. So then he asks if 50 First Kisses is about first kisses.
I had to laugh at that one.
And she kind of explains it's a great love story about how you make love stay. I love that. Just like keeping it super simple. It tells you nothing about it.
But it's I think it's like the core of why she likes it so much, like why she was so attached to that script.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Lawrence's research uncovered 10 men who she's been in relationships with, and he lists Jamie Walters. It's funny to see this James. Faden Papa Michelle. Is that how you say that?
I don't
Papa
know.
Michael? Anyway, Faden Papa Michael or Papa Michelle, Jeremy Thomas, Val Kilmer, Eric Erlinson, Luke Wilson, Jeremy Davies, Tom Green, Alec Pure, and Joel Shearer. And she responded, not Val Kilmer. Jeremy Davies is a friend. Alec Pure and Joel Shearer, friends. The other 6, she says, those are my major relationships. And
so this is like the thing I remember most about when we found this magazine was reading that. And like, we really latched onto this being interesting because it's like, no one's really ever done that before, like where she's been like, no, that actually wasn't true. That one wasn't true. So a couple things I want to say about this list. I believe this is like the only time post 1991 where I've seen this Faden guy mentioned.
Oh.
So he's the way older creep, and I will say creep because he was way older, who worked on Poison Ivy when she was 16 and then directed Sketch Artist. And remember, there's the whole thing about how her boyfriend was the director. And yeah,
that's right.
So that's who that is. He never gets talked about. He's like still working. He was like at the Oscars recently, and I was like, yeah. I'll call it out. I don't care. And then this is also kind of a funny place to mention that. So the Joel guy, do you remember this?
I mean, I think I do because I think I have clippings of him.
Yes. So there was like pictures of her out with him twice, and like they're clearly on a date, like they're kissing, but you know, maybe never went anywhere, and you could call him a friend. That's fine. But I had heard recently on a podcast, some guy in a band, I don't even remember who it was, and the band had toured with the Strokes in this time, late 2002. And he told a story about Fab seeing the pictures of Drew and this guy kissing, and that like he was super bummed out about it because like he's like, I saw pictures of my girlfriend kissing another guy.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Drew. No, I mean, I wonder what the situation was there. Like
maybe they were like still like, you know,
early
talking or what. I mean, it wasn't that early on. It was months into things, but still. Anyway, I just think that's really funny to mention.
It's also like so fun to have that little puzzle piece. Like,
yes, totally.
To know that there was like a reaction.
Oh, I did like,
side.
I was like, I got to make sure this is true. So I like went and found the show that the guy was talking about and like lined up perfectly when those pictures came out. I love it. Oh, this is legit.
I love it. And then Lawrence, the author, asks, was her marriage to Jeremy Thomas a mistake? And she responded, life lesson learned. Both of my marriages have taught me the same lesson twice over, really harsh. Listen to your instincts. Don't be a people pleaser.
Oof.
Ooh, that's
that's an interesting one, huh?
Oof. Well, she's kind of saying she did it for them, not for her.
That's totally how I interpret that. Absolutely.
Right.
It is also funny how often it feels like the Jeremy Thomas wedding comes up, even though it was like such a blip on the radar in her life.
Yep. But it was a proof of her bad girl nature.
Yeah. So then he asks, why are so many Hollywood relationships doomed? And she says that some people care about like outside opinions from other people and the press too much, but she just accepts that it comes along with her job and she doesn't torture herself about it, which I definitely feel like she doesn't really seem like as much of a people pleaser as she is. I don't feel like she cares that strongly about like what the general public thinks about her.
Yeah.
Like she knows people are going to talk about her and it's just what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then he asks, are you capable of love?
I know. It's like harsh.
Jeez. And she says, I'm very capable of love. I probably said I wasn't when I was heartbroken. Every time I get my heart broken, I think that love doesn't exist.
Oh, that reminds me of the 94 one. Love sucks.
Love stinks.
Yeah. So then he asks a series of questions about her unnamed current boyfriend. We will tell you guys that was Fabrizio Moretti right there. And she says she is seeing someone. She wants to keep it private. He's in a different business than hers and he is younger than her. So that's all she gives up because she was really trying at this time to not like put it all out there. Like you got to think this is her first big relationship post Tom Green where it was completely out there. And we will get into that a little further on.
Yep, that's true. It's like, she was like, how can I like completely flip the script here?
Yeah.
And then he asks, out of those 6 prior relationships, how many times did the guy break her heart and vice versa? And she says it's about half and half. I feel like I've heard her had this question asked before, and that like she feels like she was always broken up with. But maybe
interesting.
I'm making that up in my head. I have no idea. Anyway, and then he asks what she looks for in a man, and she says consistency, which totally makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so then he asks her, just after she says consistency, he's just like, explain.
Give me more, girl.
Yeah, so she said, someone who's able to make plans and keep them. When a person doesn't have a stable family in their life, they come from a fearful place where they're searching for that stability. When people come from a stable family, they feel a sense of independence. So when 2 of those types of people come together, they have very different mentalities. One is, hey, my family has always been around and they always will be, and people stay. Those who haven't been in families think everybody leaves. That's a big part of something that I have to personally overcome. When I was in my early 20s, I started to realize that it wasn't through another person that I was going to find that stability, that it was actually going to have to come from myself. If I could be my best friend, if I could be the one who could make myself feel that I would never leave myself, then maybe I would gain a sense of strength. I wouldn't place that need on a man. Ooh,
I know.
I mean, I think that this is something that she realizes over and over in her life.
I know. I was thinking that too.
Because now I feel like she maybe has really absorbed that.
Yeah, like she's saying it then, but now she really means it.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool thing to point out here that from my like quick going through the list, I think all of her serious partners have come from very stable families. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, I think that she's like innately drawn to that, you know, because it's like seeking out what she's never had.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So Lawrence says like, oh, you thought you had found that in Tom Green. And he reads a quote about him from her where she had said, he's funny, extremely understanding, loves to go on adventures. He's kind and a good communicator and inspires me to do good things in life and be a good person. And she just says, all true. And then he's like, okay, so what was missing? And he notes that there was a long pause here. And in his book, he says this is actually the only time that there's like a long pause where she's really thinking about her answer. So I thought that was sort of worth noting.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, the ability to see the big picture, trust in time, it was a big problem for us. And he's like, that's abstract. Like, what's the big picture? And she said, it's the ability to allow a relaxation that there will be time. We weren't sure how to function in our relationship due to a lack of trust and time. And I really like went over that in my head. Like, I think there was a sense of urgency with their relationship, you know, probably because of his health issues, maybe, or like because they were so public about everything, where it was like, we let's go. We got to get married right now. We like, rather than this trusting and time thing that she's talking. I thought this was really like a cool way to put it.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's sort of like, it is a little bit confusing and it still is abstract even when she kind of explains it.
I mean, so he even has a little side comment in his book pointing to this question because it's like supposed to teach people how to do interviews. And he's like, I would have still liked her to give more examples, but this was as much as she was giving up. So it's time to take a different tack.
She was just like kind of going around the answer.
Yeah. Which she'll do occasionally.
Like this one line, it's the ability to allow a relaxation that there will be time. Like, who do you think was in a rush, her or him?
I think it was her. I don't know. Yeah. Or just like it became, I think their relationship almost became like its own living beast. You know, it was like running out of control or something.
It kind of did feel like that at the time. Yeah. Too, like things were going really fast.
Well, she confirms that it was a mistake to play their relationship out in public. And she said she'll do it differently in the future and admits that it, quote, felt like a circus. So like, yeah, the circus was on its train going too fast.
Yep. And I love this next part because it kind of feeds into it. So he asks, did he feel that way too? Or did he like it? Meaning like about a circus. And she says, well, so much of his job was about that. And I played along with it because I thought it was fun and funny. it's interesting to be like, it was playful until it was like their real life, I guess.
Yeah.
And then a little bit that wasn't printed, she said, but you always have to remain who you truly are. You can't become another person.
I know. How did they leave that part out? Because to me, that's almost like she was going along with his whole wacky thing. And then she hit a day where she was like, this isn't me. I don't want to be doing all these antics out in the public like this.
Mm-hmm.
Really fascinating.
Maybe it just felt like, because this is more, it's like abstract still somewhat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yep. But I like that line.
Maybe their relationship was like a dumpling rolling out of control. Call back.
So then he brings up that Drew called her self-controlling in the marriage on the Tonight Show. And she kind of says like there was a problem for her, not Tom. So I guess she was maybe like felt like controlling in some way.
Yeah.
She said the greatest downfall that I've experienced in relationships is one word: expectations. Too many expectations drive people nuts. And then there's a little bit more in the book here. So then he asked, and the expectations are that it's going to be perfect, that it's going to be something special. And she said, for the most part, it's do it my way.
And his little comment in the book was pay dirt.
Yep. And then he asks, your expectations are it's either your way or the highway. And she said, and the other person's too. When it comes down to expectations, if you could just keep it to one term, at its core, someone's going to do it the way you want them to do it. And that's just not the way people function.
Yeah. Again, abstract, but it's kind of fills in a little more of that. Like they just were very different people who had very different lifestyles and like.
How long is this after their divorce?
I mean, I guess it's only a year.
Only 1 year. Shit.
Yeah. He's doing this interview with her in December 2002 and it went through in December 2001.
That's right. Wow. So it's fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, very fresh. So he asks, does she try to change people, specifically Tom? She says, no, she doesn't do that. She realized she couldn't and she didn't even want to with Tom. Mm-hmm. And then he asks what their relationship is like now. And she says they're trying to be friends. And then he asks, how did they split things up? And she said, we were just incredibly fair about everything, which is nice.
Yeah. Again, like, but short. Mm-hmm. And then he asks, what were the promises that she couldn't keep? And she says kind of like just straight out that I would stay married.
I wrote zing. She's like that, duh. How about this?
And he asks if she feels guilty about that. And she says, no, because it's much better to get out of something than to be miserable and stay in it. I just have to say as a side note, I feel like, I don't know if it was a comedian or at one point I remember someone saying divorces are never like a bad thing. Like, yes, it's hurtful, but like people are doing it because they don't want to be together. You know, like ultimately the end of that is like, anyway.
To get out of a bad situation. Yeah.
Right. And then he says, why is her judgment so poor?
Okay. So I didn't write this in here, but when I read through his questions, he was more specific. He like used a quote she had given somewhere about how she doesn't judge people. And then he says, why is your judgment so poor? But it sounds a little harsh when you're just reading it.
A little bit. So she laughs at that and says it's getting better. She says that she always tries to believe the best about people, which that makes so much sense.
She still does that.
I do that too. And she says, I know I've made some really wacky choices with men. I didn't have good examples growing up.
Oh. So then this wasn't printed and I just put it in here because it felt like the best place. But he did ask her what makes her irritated, frustrated, angry, which I thought was fun because we don't see that side of her very often. And she was like less and less as she ages. And she wants to make everyone else happy. So she forgets about her own needs, which sounds like someone I know.
I literally said something almost exactly like that to my therapist. Like,
I was like, Anne.
Well, I was like, talking about like, oh, I forget to eat dinner because there isn't someone else there to like care for. So like, anyway.
Then he asks her if she writes in a journal, which he must have already known.
Yeah.
And she says, I really like this. I'm going to read the whole thing. She says, quote, yes, sometimes it's nice to have someone to write to when you're alone. In the last year, I was writing to a man. Ooh. And I said, sometimes I just need someone to write to think about when I'm walking down the street, to love, to separate myself from a group of people and take a deep breath and look at stars while smoking a cigarette and think about you and have a telepathic moment of, hey, how are you? Are you thinking about me? I think I can feel it. And this was like so 90s Drew writing to me. Like it feels like familiar in that way. I love it. It's so cool.
It is cool. Yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying. But also I feel like she would share like her writing and stuff a lot in like 90s articles.
It feels like that kind of writing.
Yeah. And then he asks Drew why she thinks Charlie's Angels was such a big hit. And she said that she really wanted people to feel good when they went to the theater. Like,
and isn't that funny? I swear when we went on Movies That Made Us Gay and talked about Charlie's Angels, when we got to the end, we're like, how do you not like walk away from this movie just being like, that was great? Like, you know?
Yeah. Like it's invigorating.
Yes.
She says, I wanted them to party with their best friends or make out with their girlfriends in the middle of some crazy area. She wanted people to come out and be like, yeah,
all the small things.
Yes. And then he says, why did it have 17 writers?
Like, I don't know if that's factual.
I know it had a lot, though. And she didn't really answer, but she says that they make fun of that in the second movie, which is really funny. Yeah.
Then he says, like, it must be fun playing a badass. And this is a fun quote. She says, fuck yeah. If I wanted to play sexy, amazing, and capable, I had to make the film because I'm usually the girl who walks into a room and trips, usually say the wrong thing and embarrass myself. And I wanted so badly to play cool and refined.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So then he points out the differences in pay that the Angels got on the first movie and says Cameron got $20 million on the second, and then kind of inquires about whether she and Lucy also got raises. And she's like, yes, we all got amazing raises. And then she also says like she wishes those numbers weren't public while also wishing that they were more balanced. Yeah. It does say like Lucy Liu made like $2 million. You know,
it's a lot. It's a big difference for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure, Cameron got a higher base rate, but I'm sure as a producer, Drew saw some kickback from that.
True. So Lucy's the only one that got screwed.
Yeah, darn it, Lucy.
And then he asked if she was happy with Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which she says she loved it. She said she followed the script for 7 years and fought for that part.
We should mention we have a really good Confessions of a Dangerous Mind episode from the end of last year where we definitely talked about that whole process.
Yes.
If you want to know more about that.
Yes. And then he asks how George Clooney was as a director, and we've heard her say that he was the best. So she basically says, one of the best she's ever worked with. He really directed her and understands, quote, how fucked up actors can feel in their heads and in their hearts. And then she admits that he made her feel really safe.
So cute. That's such a consistent thing she said about him over the years.
Totally. Yep.
Here's a couple little not printed things. He brings up how Steven Spielberg had once said that Drew would tell him like better ways to do scenes in E.T. And she's like, oh my gosh, like she remembers him asking her to come up with lines. And she says she was just like way more bold and not self-conscious back then. Mm-hmm. And she mentions that when she was doing Everyone Says I Love You and that unnamed director asked her to improvise, she says she thought she was going to vomit in the corner because she was so nervous about it. I feel like she said that about Scream as well, like that she could have played it real, like if she was. Let me rephrase it. She said that about her performance in Scream, that if someone had really broke into her house, she would be vomiting in the corner. I'm pretty sure she likes to vomit in corners, right. I guess.
She doesn't want people to see it.
And then one other thing that wasn't printed, Lawrence points out that she had once been described as being like Jodie Foster, and that was by the Bad Girls director, Jonathan Kaplan. And then she was also described as being the anti-Jodie by Talk magazine. So he's like, which one is more correct? So she says she thinks she and Jody are different. She said Jody has a grace, intelligence, and studiousness that Drew is, quote, too fumbly for.
Oh, gosh.
That she respects Jody's longevity and she's like a role model to her. And then she says, quote, by the way, she was the hottest kid ever. You watch her old movies, she was one groovy ass chick. So were you, Drew. So were you.
And I love, I don't know. I love how when she takes these moments to like compliment. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So then he asks for an update on Barbarella. Which did we already mention? This is one of the things they were working on.
Yeah, just briefly. We just said R.I.P.
Yeah. And her response is it's the same as it's been for a while in development hell, basically, is what we understand.
Totally.
And then that she and Nan had some new ideas, but they're super busy with all their other projects. And then regarding Barbarella, because Jane Fonda was Barbarella, he asks if Jane Fonda has given her blessing. And Drew said she hasn't said yes or no about being involved, which Drew thinks is great. Like, she's like, it's not, there's
not
no
no.
like definitive. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then he points out that Drew has 3 packs of cigarettes on her table, which that's a little too much.
A lot.
And asks when she started smoking. And she goes on a little thing about it. So she said, when I was 9, I never smoke at work. I have 2 sides to me. I want to be a total businesswoman in control of her life, creating jobs for myself and the people I love, furthering my brain by writing, painting, taking photographs, and having stimulating conversations, reading smart books. Then there's this other part of me that loves watching Friends, having drinks and cigarettes, watching old movies. Sometimes when I get home, I've just had enough of the stimulation and I just want to have a drink, a drag, and watch something funny.
That's so cute.
I relate, Drew.
Yeah. I was also thinking, like, I actually can't picture ever seeing her smoking on a movie set, which is kind of crazy because there's so many pictures of her smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if she's smoking in any of those like wishful thinking.
I don't think so. She has like a cigarette in her mouth, but I think it's like part of the scene.
Lit. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not lit. Interesting. Okay, they didn't print this, and this is one of my favorite parts of this entire article. So this is in his book, and it's about her dad. We love the way she talks about her dad, and this is like great. So this is a huge old chunk of text, but I think I'm going to go for reading the whole thing.
Okay. If you need to stop, I'll take over.
Take a breath, take some water. Okay.
Yeah.
So he asks, how is your dad crazy and how is he a genius? Because he'd read that quote from her somewhere before. So Drew's answer, crazy because he won't accept any responsibility for himself. He only looks to others to take care of him. He's totally obsessed with weird little phobias that cripple his life. Genius because he is incredibly smart about spirituality, and a total genius because he's a fucking mad poet. He says things that I have to go write down. He'll say, daughter, I need food. And I'll say, oh, are you hungry? And he'll go, hungry? I was hungry since the day I was born. That's fucking cool, man. He'll talk about the flickering Buddha in the corner or the bush he's having sex with, which quivers when he walks by it.
Oh, God.
And I'll say to him, I can't handle you. You're too crazy. But it's all like genius poetry. With my dad, he's the only relationship that I've been able to have in my life that is as profound and important to me, but that I've had a total lack of expectations with. Okay, this is really cool. If you're following, this is Ashley jumping in now, not
Yes.
Drew. End quote for a second. If you're following our Little Girl Lost coverage, the last chapter we did is where she comes to terms with who her dad is and what he's going to be in her life. And we were talking about, oh my God, like this is where it happened. Like she's carried this through. So back into the quote, this is her talking about that. She says, when I was a kid, I didn't know how to have a lack of expectations. But since I was a teenager, I've made total peace with that man. You can't expect anything from him. And whatever little gems you get, you take them, write them down. He's just a madman who lives out in a world that's interesting and neat to me, but he's not a dad. He'll never provide me with anything. If anything, he's a taker, not a giver. But I accept that. My relationship with my mother is different. I had different expectations of her growing up. So, whoa,
Whoa, and also love it. And
how did they cut that?
Yeah. The part, like, literally we just talked about this moment as a teenager where she was like realized like that is the relationship. Like, he is this person, he's never gonna
be dad. He's just going to be this madman who I can write down his weird little sayings.
Right. And I think we were talking about how like she's achieved it. Like,
yes, this is like the one thing that's like, she did it. Like she's carried this through forever.
The one thing she's ever gotten right. No, I'm just kidding. And then he asks, like, clarifying, because this is in Little Girl Lost. He said, did he really stick her hand into a candle flame to demonstrate pain? And she says, he did it. He held my hand there for a few seconds. I was 3 or 4. And he told me it was mind over matter, that you could overcome pain through your mind. He was very into yogi Buddhism, Eastern philosophy. And then
it's interesting that was brought up again. Like, we just talked about that because she says, like, my dad was physically abusive. And we were like, oh yeah, there was like the whole candle thing. And
yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
Being like thrown against the wall or whatever. Okay. And then Lawrence asks, what is her relationship like with her mother? And she replies, indifferent, which is interesting. And then he says, still, and she admits yes. And then he talks about how when she was with Tom, she was trying to reconcile their relationship, like her relationship with her mother. And then she said that she tried to figure out that relationship, but it will take many lifetimes. That makes sense. That
truth. Here we are 20 years later. True, Drew.
Yes. And then he says, can Jade like count on Drew for help when she's in trouble, like being arrested for handgun possession? And she said that Jade didn't ask for help. She said, quote, my family's so wacky, I'm pretty numb to the embarrassment factor, and then laughs.
I remember she was on, I think it was called like Primetime Live or something, where they asked her about that whole arrest. And she said, Jesus Lord, Mom, what are you out there doing? Like, I'll never
That sounds familiar. Jesus Lord.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he asks if Drew blames her for robbing her of her childhood, her mom. And it's kind of funny. It's like exactly what she would say now. She has a calm and appreciative perspective and is grateful for the opportunities her mom provided her with.
And I just thought right away about this story she told. Was it when we were there?
No, it was, who was it to? Gosh darn it. I'll think of it later. It doesn't matter.
So Drew on her show was talking
to Paulina Porskova, I think.
Oh, good memory. I
could be wrong.
Anyway, so she talks about how Frankie had recently said to her that like she thinks it's really important for Drew to recognize that her mom is one of the big reasons she had the opportunities she had. So it's like, she already had that, but I think Drew's point of talking about it was like, I don't know what I was going to say, but like that she was like very mature and that she'd kind of come up with this. I think sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's like her default thing to say about her mom. Cause she's like given little nuggets in the last years of like, I don't want to say things that are going to hurt her. Like she's protecting her mom's feelings still. And so this is like a nice, easy answer that shows appreciation for her mom.
Totally.
Okay. This part is wild.
Oh my God. Yes.
I almost feel like I'll be Lawrence and you be Drew. We're just going to read this because it's a back and forth real fast. So he says, you have a half brother and 2 half sisters, all older than you.
I have 2 half sisters? I only know of one.
Blythe and Jessica?
I don't know the story of Jessica. I've heard of her.
Who is she?
I don't know.
She might be your half sister.
It's never been explained clearly to me.
Do you find this peculiar?
It's just my reality. I'm baffled by people who are close to their families.
So this was another part I remember us like really noticing when we first found this article. So I'll kind of like fill in. She also does say, they didn't print this, but she does say, I've never met Blythe. So she does kind of acknowledge knowing about both of them, but not knowing anything more than that. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So Blythe, just for anybody that doesn't know, I'll just fill us in. Blythe was, these are all her dad's kids. Blythe was born in 1962. Her mom is Italian actress Gabriella Palazzoli. And I don't think there has ever been any evidence that Drew has ever met her, which is crazy. I think she lives in Italy. I know that John the third, her brother, definitely is connected with Blythe, but I don't think Drew is at all.
Okay.
There were a lot of pictures of John and Gabriella when Blythe was born, like press photos that you can go see. So he was definitely like, he married her, like they were definitely more together.
Wait, I know this. Yeah, there's like a whole bunch that are on eBay too.
Yep. Yep. And then Jessica was born 4 years later in 1966, and her mom is American actress Nina Wayne. I've never seen any pictures of him with them at all. And Jessica sadly died at the age of 47 in 2014 from an accidental overdose. Not the first in the Barrymore line to do that. But Drew and Jessica at least met at least once, because Jessica was there along with Drew and John to spread their dad's ashes in Joshua Tree in 2004. Like we've seen pictures. So it's like, this was only, 2 years later. And she's like, I don't even know who Jessica is. Like, it's never been explained to me. And then how fascinating that they're like met for a minute.
I mean,
that's so weird.
I'm glad that they had that, but it's also like really wild.
And it's like, she longed for family so badly. And like, she had family out there, but like no one, like it's never been explained clearly to me. Like no one ever tried to connect her with them. Like, it's just so sad.
I mean, yeah, this is just going back to that whole thing about like, the Barrymore name, like, what was really given to her there. Like,
it also makes me think about how we recently were discussing how her grandmother was alive for the first 4 years of Drew's life, and we don't have any evidence that she ever even was around her.
It just like surprised us so much because I just thought everyone was gone.
Right.
Okay. So family stuff, we will always be fascinated by it.
Always.
Yeah. And then Lawrence asks Drew how long she's been in therapy, and she says almost 14 years, and you did the math and it tracks.
Yep.
She had an incredible therapist, she says, who isn't a yes man and tells her what her problems are. And a little tidbit that wasn't printed, she talked about that she doesn't like the term self-help, but thinks furthering your mind and being self-aware makes you a better person. I kind of feel the same way. Like there are some like things about self-helpy stuff that kind of give me the ick. And then it's like, ultimately, if it makes you aware of how you are to other people, I don't know.
I wonder if you guys have that in common, because you don't like to help yourself. You like to help others. I'm playing therapist now. I'm not going to be your yes man.
I like other help, not self-help. And then like he asks what Drew thinks about Winona Ryder shoplifting. So random. And
but I had to go like, oh, this is a cool like full circle moment, because our first Movieline article in 1992, she's like ranting about Winona getting all the parts that she's trying out for. So I thought that was cool.
And she talks about feeling bad about Winona's shoplifting. She says she knows what it's like to fall on your face in front of the world. She thinks people will be forgiving if she shows that she's a good person. Seems so like a non-response, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very different from 1992, Drew. But I also like, after I read that, I was like, oh, I want Winona on the Drew Barrymore show. Like she's at the top of my dream guest list now. Like the things they could talk about. I wonder, like, I still don't know if Drew's like ever like gotten over her being like a little bitter about her.
I don't know. Have we ever seen a picture of them together?
No, nothing. Okay. Which is kind of wild.
Yeah, it is.
His original list of 158 questions, he had also planned to ask her thoughts on a bunch of other actresses. And I just thought it'd be fun to list them. So we have Reese Witherspoon, Claire Danes, Gwyneth Paltrow, Christina Ricci, Natalie Portman, and Halle Berry. So it's unclear if he ever got the chance to even go there, but
interesting.
Like interesting. Yeah. What was the goal there? Then he asks her if she still has her first gray hair. And she says, yes, it's in a plastic bag that she labeled my first gray hair, and that George Clooney had written on the other side, and my last. But no, she's been getting more and it's freaky. And then this was a cool question. This is like the stuff I live for. This was not printed. Once again, he asked what other things does she save? So I love this. She says, I save a lot of things. I love saving concert tickets, little photographs that I take, a feather that I'll find on the beach, matchbooks from restaurants, corks from wine bottles on a special night, someone's birthday candles from their cake. If somebody writes me a note, I'll save it, especially if it's a lover. Someone wrote me a letter. But yes, this is like,
yeah, I love it.
None of this is surprising or new to me, but I was just like gobbling it up.
I have to say, like, no, somebody writing her a note, I thought of when we were at the show for her birthday and they like pulled out the notes from the cake that were from her daughters.
Yeah.
Like she was so like, I saw her make sure she grabbed them and give them to somebody. Like,
yes, like make sure these are safe.
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
And I don't know if they were like the copies or the originals, but I remember she was very intentional about like the things my girls made. Like
that's right.
So then he asks her why she tries to make her breasts look smaller. Okay, dude.
I could not find the reasoning for that question.
What? She said, I don't anymore. I don't even wear a bra. I'm pretty free. I posed in Playboy. I flashed them on Letterman. When I was younger, there was a time when they were awkward to me. Now I'm a woman and I love them.
She handled that question pretty well.
Yeah, she did. And then he asks where she likes to shop in LA. And she says American Rag C for new and vintage clothes and a bookstore on Fairfax near Cantor's that we visited.
Okay, did you remember this?
Yes, I totally remembered it. And the bookstore was located at 449 North Fairfax in Los Angeles and run by a man named Arnold Hare. Yes, we went and visited this, and I think we tried to like match the like angles of where she was shown walking in and out of the store.
There had been paparazzi pictures of her there, like maybe a few months before this article came out. I think it was like May 2020. We can't say it that way. May 2002. And then we must have read the article and gone, oh, where's there a bookstore on Fairfax by Candid? Oh, it's that bookstore. So we went there and we have pictures. You're not in them. You must have taken them all. But pictures of me and Jolena like outside the store and inside the store.
So funny.
I don't remember that much about it, but that's so funny that we did that. I immediately had to go find those pictures.
Of course. Absolutely.
This is a cool question. It's just kind of randomly in here. He asks if she could live in any painting, what would it be? And she says Van Gogh's Starry Night, which I like.
Oh, I like that. I saw that painting in Amsterdam.
Oh, the original. How cool.
It was cool.
Was Drew in it?
She was.
Oh,
I had no idea. It was so cool. What a nice surprise.
And then he asks, like, why does she think that she won't ever win any awards? He had some context for that. Mm-hmm. And she says she hears what people say about her in test screenings. Oof. Mm-hmm. And then she says how certain magazines still won't feature her on the cover. And I was thinking, I wonder if this was Vogue, because something I was looking at recently had said that Drew and Nancy had like worked really hard to finally get her on the cover of Vogue in 2005.
Oh, interesting.
That maybe they were getting a lot of no's up until then.
Yeah, maybe.
And she says how she's like not thought of for certain types of jobs. And then she says, quote, no matter how far I get, people still remember the mistakes I've made. It's okay. It's just the way it is. Every fairy tale has darkness surrounding it. That's what makes it real.
Oh, I like that line though.
I know, me too. But then it also made me really happy that Grey Gardens happened and she got to finally have a little taste of that.
Yeah, totally. And like a role that had that depth to it
that she
look at her that way.
Right. And that she knew she wouldn't be considered for it. She had to really fight for her.
Yep. Totally. And then he asks, how secure is she today? And she says more secure than ever, which I love reading that, even though we know her.
Yeah. There's even better to come, Drew.
Yeah. And he asks, what are her limitations? And she says she knows she's placed too much of her happiness on men and is stopping it. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks, does she still feel crazy in her head? She says, at times. I'm an adult now. For the first time in my life, I feel calm, like there's room to breathe. I can watch what's happening rather than try to make things happen. I wrote this in my journal. How do you stop yourself from trying to control? How do you just let things happen when in order to create a great life with a wonderful job and friendships, you need to make such an effort? What is the fine line between putting energy into something and letting go? I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I also wondered, did she have her journal with her? Because there were multiple times where she's like reading from her journal.
She's just going off memory.
Yeah.
So this is funny. I don't know the source of this, but he asks, why does she think she's a reincarnation of her grandfather, John? This kind of familiar.
Yeah.
And she says she believes there must be a reason that she has a passionate connection to him. And this is sort of fun. In the unprinted version, he asks if she knows the legend about her grandfather's body being taken from the morgue.
Yep.
And this is kind of fun. She said, my dad said it wasn't true, but then he alluded that it was true. So I don't know what to believe. That's kind of where we're at. We're like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
She says they parodied that in the great movie SOB. I hope it's true. I hope to God my friends steal my body out of a morgue and throw a party when I'm dead.
That's somehow a Druism, even though it's just a reference to.
I feel like Mel would be down for doing that for her, even though it would take a lot of effort.
She might want to take a nap instead. Yep. Yeah. So if you guys don't know the story, I guess it kind of came out, but supposedly her grandfather John's body was literally taken from the morgue by Errol Flynn and somebody else.
Yeah, they mentioned like W.C. Fields. Who knows? Who knows?
And taken to a bar and partied or something and then brought back. Or I don't know. It's wild, but who knows? Anyway, so then he asks her, why does she think her craziness comes from her grandfather? She said, my family has battled so many demons that I was born with. I feel a tremendous responsibility to right them. They got so many things right, but they also come with a huge amount of baggage. They were all very, very crazy. It's up to me to find a sense of calm in this line of people. I've already gone so far past some of their demons, their loneliness, their battles with insanity, with alcohol, with their place inside of themselves. These are things I've worked very hard to overcome, and I've come a long way.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah, totally awesome.
And then it wraps up with him just asking, does she feel content? And Drew, of course, gives a lovely answer. She says, if I died tomorrow, I would think that I had lived the most extraordinary life, that whoever is responsible for it, whether it be my family or a God, the universe, considering I believe that we're energy fields, I know that I have been given the greatest gifts, and it's up to me not to screw them up.
That's very consistent of her too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always feels like she has to honor what was given to her and how lucky she is and how it could go away at any time.
Especially post ASAP treatment center.
Yep, totally. This was really cool. I'm so glad that you found those extended parts.
Oh my God. If I had it Googled.
I mean, it would be a good article. I mean, that's cool. I kind of want the book.
So I did save the relative pages in our drive. So you can check that out.
Cool. Very cool. All right. So now that we're done with our Movieline series, we got to think of what magazine series or how we're going to, come up with the next group of magazines. So if y'all have an idea about like a theme, or I think we had some other possible
or even just favorites. I mean, I think we still need to talk about Interview 1992 because it was like a big deal. I don't know so much about the article. But I don't know if there's like any more obvious heavy hitters. So definitely if we're not thinking about something, you guys reach out and let us know which magazine you'd like us to talk about.
Because these episodes, we like doing these because they go into so many topics, and the little offshoots that you're able to take are like so sporadic and random.
It's so fun.
Like, yeah. So we always get into lots of random stuff in these.
When you're a historian like us, you really enjoy these things.
You enjoy the tidbits galore.
Tidbits galore.
Yes.
All right. So thank you guys so much for coming along on this journey back to late 2002. And we hope you enjoyed. If you liked it and you appreciate all the research that we do, you can go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you have an iPhone, it's just sitting there waiting for you, as our friends on Movies That Made Us Gay always point out. I'm like, yeah, that's so true. You don't even have to listen to us there, but it's there. You could do it. Because I listen on Spotify, but I'll still go leave reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Nice.
You can do that, you guys. You can also leave stars on Spotify. And then be sure to follow us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod. I'm pretty certain I'm going to have to put up a reel about us talking about 50 fist dates. And we also have an account at Drewsium where we share all kinds of Drew photos for you.
And also visit our website at howdoyoudrew.com on our OG, thedrewsium.com. That's us, guys.
That's us.
That's us. We've mentioned it a couple times because some themes were overlapping here, but go over to our Patreon, sign up, and listen to us talk about Little Girl Lost. We're like getting close to the end of that, so don't forget.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
And another thing I don't want you to forget is to send listener mails to us at howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com or on Instagram, or, reach out. We want to hear from you. All right, everybody. I guess we'll see you next Drew's Day.
Yay. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewsium.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.